Hi, this is Zach with Worn&Wound. Today I'll be taking a look at the Halios Tropik SS, or stainless steel. We reviewed the Tropik Bronze a few months ago. It was a very cool watch, had a very unique presence, and you should check out the review. But we wanted to look at this one as well because the Tropik B, I think, is currently sold out. This has a bezel on it, and we just thought that this had this really cool presence that other dive watches in this price range, this is $650, just don't really have right now, which is that it's a smaller sized dress diver in the vein of vintage, 60s dive watches like Omega Seamasters, things like that. It just has a really beautiful presence. It has nice build quality to it, 300-meter water resistance, so it's still a watch that's kind of rugged and kind of tool diver, but it looks much more dressy and much more kind of elegant than other things that are out there. And so Halios, if you know them, they're a cool brand. They're based out of Canada. They're known for kind of perfectionism with their watches, so they release them in small batches, limited quantities, and they're often unavailable, but everyone who has one knows that they're just expertly built and beautifully designed with really great detailing. The Tropik stainless steel here has a Miyota 9015 movement in it, dome sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel insert, goes for $650. So let's take a closer look. Taking a look at the case of the Tropik stainless steel, this is really what kind of sets this watch apart from what's out there right now. It's a 41 millimeter diameter with a 48 millimeter lug to lug, 14 millimeter thickness, the top of that domed sapphire crystal there, with a 22 millimeter lug width. So you have an interesting mix of a smaller cased diver with kind of some broad, stout elements. So 22 millimeter lug width on a 41 millimeter case gives it kind of broad shoulders. And then 48 millimeters here, it's not very long, lug to lug. And as you can see, the proportions, it's really, it's all kind of very contained. And it is a cushion case shape rather than a typical cylindrical side or slab-sided case. So when you look at it going around, you have the kind of telltale signs of a cushion case, though it's very small, so it's not like overly pronounced, but you have the cut-in lines here. The whole side is rounded, which you might be able to see, just kind of curves. So everything actually flows really, really nicely. And then you also have the shorter lugs that come off. This really puts a lot of the focus on the dial, on the bezel. I really think it's about those elements, but the case design adds comfort. You also have a really nice screw-down crown here with this cool kind of enamel insert with 3 moons. I think there's a Halios logo there. I just think that's a really nice, nicely detailed little piece. Looking at the bezel now, has this really nice wide tooth to it, so it's very easy to grasp. There is no movement on here when it is still. There's no accidental clicking over, or no shake or anything. It's really nice and solid. And then it's a 120 click unidirectional bezel with just a really, really nice snap to it. So really good craftsmanship here. One thing that's really kind of beautiful, and this might be a little hard to see here, is the slope from the bezel, the ceramic bezel insert into the dome sapphire crystal. Just really nice design and detailing there, really good tolerances to that, so it just makes for a better build quality. Flipping the watch over now, very simple case back, but it kind of also speaks to vintage watches from the era. You have this Capricorn, I believe, which to me kind of also refers to the sea monster on the back of Omega, so it's kind of a funny play on that. It's their own little kind of monster thing, though one that relates to Zodiac, Star Trek, things like that. Then some details about the watch, but very simple. The dial of the Tropik really speaks to its mid-century design. I think really, it's utilized here in a dive watch, and I think it works nicely in a dive watch, but I think you could take it out of this context, put it in a different case, and it would look, like a dress watch or kind of a casual, business casual kind of watch, but just has really nice, elegant design with a very simple, clean approach. So the primary index here is made out of applied markers with lume within them, so you can see the little steel edge around them. You have a double marker at 12, slightly longer markers at 3 and 9, and then a gap at 6 where you just have a little dot, which kind of is reminiscent of tritium dots, and the excuse me, the date window there, which I love a 6 o'clock date window. I think they did a really good job here so that everything is nicely balanced. Around that, you just have a very simple index for, individual minutes, seconds, made of white lines and white dots. And that's really it other than the text. You have Halios below 12 and then Tropik in 300 meters. Tropik is done in kind of a light gold color. I think it's a really nice little accent to it. It's very subtle. And the black dial itself is actually gloss. So one thing with this watch that it could be seen actually as a detriment, I don't know, it kind of go both ways. It's very reflective. You have the ceramic bezel here, which is really reflective, and then the gloss dial. So you do get a lot of kind of mirroring on it. But that also, on the other side of that makes things look really, really crisp, and the black looks really, really deep. So it kind of goes both ways. And I think in the dress diver, it does work towards that dressier look. The bezel, also, talk about the insert here, has a very simple vintage design. I really, really like how clean it is. You just have dots for the, every 5 numerals essentially, and numerals every 10. Really, really simple, thin font, and then triangle at the 060 origin marker. All of the markers on the bezel, as well as the applied markers on the dial and the filling on the hands, glow a nice bright blue color. It's not quite as bright as C3 Superluminova, but I really like the blue, and it has kind of a nice duration to it. I think it is quite good quality blue, and it has a nice kind of cool presence to it. The last detail really to talk about are the hands, which I think are also really, really nicely executed. They are kind of a thin tapered sword shape with a diamond shaped insert in there, and then they're also a little bit 3-dimensionalized, so you have a ridge running down the center of them, so they reflect a bit more light than the other ones would have, which gives a little bit more decorative quality, more of a dress quality. I just think that these were really smart hands. We see a lot of the same style hands on dive watches, vintage dive watches, and these are just a little bit different, but they're not, outrageous or out there or anything like that. And they just really work very nicely. And then the second hand is just a simple thin stick with a little lume rectangle towards the tip. On the wrist, the Halios Tropik wears very, very nicely. The smaller size case really comes across as a more comfortable sized a dive watch compared to a lot of the contemporary watches. 41 millimeters, I think, is a really, really nice medium size for a watch this design. Obviously, it's larger than a vintage watch would have been, but I still think it wears in this kind of not quite contemporary way, which might not make a ton of sense, but it's just like it doesn't feel like a lot of these big bulky tool dive watches that we see, and I really appreciate that. As somebody with a smaller wrist but still really loves dive watch styles, this is a watch that I would be more comfortable wearing on a daily basis. And I think the kind of dressier elements of this too just make it much more versatile for going to the office, going out to bars, whatever. So it just doesn't look like you're wearing something that's overly rugged. But at the same time, it is a 300-meter dive watch, so it's totally respectable in that way. The really deep black here, I think looks great with grays, blues, whatever. And I think depending on the strap option, this is a very versatile watch. You can pair with anything. The strap it comes with. They have a bracelet option. I don't think the bracelet has come out yet. I have to double check on that in the written review. But this is an interesting strap they designed that is actually genuine shark skin. It's different, I have to say that. So you have this very heavily textured surface here. Once again, it's a 22 millimeter lug, so you have a fairly broad strap. With a contrast stitch that is kind of a golden color, which works a little bit with the Tropik there, so there's a little bit of a tie-in. And I like that it's actually not a white or anything. It would be too high contrast. I kind of appreciate the uniqueness of this strap. I like that they try to do something different. It's not quite lizard, it's not quite leather, so I do think it kind of plays off of some vintage strap styles. That said, I just don't love it. I think it's maybe, first of all, it's a little bit too broad. I think with this vintage style and the fact that the 22 millimeters is wide to begin with, tapering it would have been a little bit more elegant. And then the strap construction itself, it's very kind of like your average kind of inexpensive Asian-made strap. So you have like a layer of shark skin over foam, over a backing. Totally works fine, but just doesn't have that kind of like high-end feel like a solid piece of leather would. You also have this Preview buckle. Once again, not like the highest quality buckle, like the edges are just a little bit like this edge is a little different than that edge. I personally also am not a huge fan of a Preview buckle. I think it kind of outweighs the watch here a little bit. I know a lot of people are fans of them, just personal taste here. But it's still, from the top, I don't think it looks bad. It just, the overall package doesn't quite match up to me. But it's a watch that can take a lot of different strap options, and we'll show you another one now. Just as to show you another option, I mean, there's, I think, a lot of ways you can go with the Tropik. This is a suede, kind of a dark khaki suede strap by a brand called Wearability, which you can get on eBay. These aren't too expensive. They're really nice straps. And I think that really plays off of the vintage side of it more. It's a little bit more maybe kind of casual, rugged, but it still has a nice kind of a elegant finish to it. And this is a tapering strap, so you can kind of see, I think, that tempers the 22 millimeters a little bit better. So it just, makes the whole thing a little bit lighter feeling. This color actually is particularly nice because once again, it picks up the Tropik in the dial a little bit, maybe contrast the black a little bit more. I just think, for me personally, this kind of makes the watch much more wearable. And of course, when the bracelet is available, I think that'll be a really, really solid option for a more kind of clean, dressy style as well. To wrap up, the Halios Tropik SS is just a really, really cool watch. I think for what we're kind of seeing on the market right now, it really stands out as being a bit unique in having the more vintage dress diver style to it. But I think they really did a good job of balancing making a watch that is legitimately sporty and kind of comfortable, and making something that is a little bit more refined. I don't really know what else to compare it with now, and you could look at obviously vintage watches, but you do get a lot of kind of build quality and kind of modern technology out of buying a watch like this rather than getting an actual vintage watch. I mean, the ceramic bezel, dome sapphire crystal, Miyota 9015 movements make this, a substantially robust watch at the same time. So for those people who are into the vintage style, and for people with slightly smaller wrists but still really, really want a good, dive watch to wear, something with a nice chunky bezel on it, but still something refined, this is just, it's a really, really great watch. And it's also good value, $650. This watch is just very, very, very well produced, really great tolerances. The bezel is just, it's exactly what you want in a high quality bezel. It does not budge, it's snappy, really good execution, sharp printing. I could go on and on. Just $650 just really makes sense, I think, for a watch this build quality. Frankly, it could cost more even, but let's hope they don't. So please read the full review on Worn&Wound. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Tumblr. Thank you.